You're just trying to get the whole head on shoulders thing figured out.
What recovery looks like after 9 months aboard the International Space Station.
It was like taking a breath of fresh air.
A new study gives hope for babies with a rare brittle bone condition, and the 6-hour brain surgery that saved a bear's life. Welcome to Eye on Health, where we focus on stories that affect your physical and mental well-being. I'm Bradley Blackburn. The Trump administration is promising to help give families more options for safe and nutritious infant formula. The initiative, called Operation Stork Speed, includes increased testing for heavy metals and other contaminants. A new study just had a warning for parents about what's in some formulas. Jared Hill dives into the findings.
It's nourishment for millions of babies, but a new investigation from Consumer Reports finds what it calls potentially harmful levels of heavy metals in some infant formulas.
We really want these results to be empowering for parents.
Sana Mujahid with Consumer Reports says their food safety team tested 41 of the most popular powdered infant formulas for heavy metals and other contaminants such as lead, inorganic arsenic, and PFAS, so-called forever chemicals. What were the findings here?
Our findings were mostly good news. There are only 10 that are in our worst choices categories, which had relatively higher levels of lead, inorganic arsenic, and one had BP and acrylamide as well.
There is no source that's going to be zero.
Dr. Mark Corkins is a pediatric gastroenterologist at Lebanon Children's Hospital.
Arsenic is a poison in high doses initially, but we're not talking about that, even close to that. The concern over time is that they're carcinogens. Lead's more of a short-term problem because it affects the ability to make red blood cells and circulation, and it actually has some effects on development.
Consumer Reports has sent their findings to the FDA. In the meantime, scientists say that there are things that parents can do.
Limit your exposure as much as possible.
That includes using filtered water to mix into powdered formula. Parents can also speak with their pediatrician if they want to switch formulas. Mujahid reminds parents to keep the findings in perspective, as these contaminants have also been detected in breast milk, food, and water. She hopes their testing pushes manufacturers to continue keeping safety top of mind, as most products were in their top or good categories.
So some companies are doing something right. And with more testing of incoming raw ingredients and final products, I think all manufacturers could achieve that.
Serving up a healthy start for the next generation. Jared Hill, CBS News, Yonkers, New York.
Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are back on Earth after more than 9 months in space. They were supposed to be up there for only 8 days. Now that they're home, their immediate concern is their health and challenges both physical and mental.
Mentally, they just need rest. Even just the gravity thing is exhausting.
Dr. Tom Marshburn has done 3 tours on the ISS. He says it could take a few months before their bodies feel normal again, and there's no driving a car until they can pass some balance tests.
So you try not to stand up too much. You're just trying to get the whole head on shoulders thing figured out. You turn your head and your inner ear is telling you you've just flipped over backwards. And you'll see them gradually get used to standing up, maybe start walking, then walking in a straight line, and then walking around a corner.
NASA officials say the experiments the astronauts conducted included using stem cell technology to potentially address blood diseases, autoimmune disorders, and cancers. Johns Hopkins University, a major health research institution, is eliminating more than 2,000 jobs across 44 countries. This comes due to the Trump administration eliminating $800 million in grants given through the United States Agency for International Development, also known as USAID. Dr. Tom Carpino was given nearly $50,000 to fund his PhD work on Mpox at Johns Hopkins, but he recently received a letter terminating his grant.
It was covering my tuition, it was covering the research funds. But it was really my livelihood. My ability to do my PhD was in part because of the funding I received from NIH.
In the letter, the NIH writes the agency is no longer prioritizing research looking into vaccine hesitancy and improving vaccine interest. But Carpino says his research doesn't explore those ideas.
Vaccination is one piece of the puzzle when you're studying an infectious disease. So without talking about vaccination, you're not really looking at the full picture.
Accomplishments by Johns Hopkins researchers include discovering type 2 diabetes, the BRCA1 gene, a link between HPV and cervical cancer, and much more. There is new hope for babies born with a genetic bone condition that's often fatal. Stephanie Stahl has more on the promising research.
Vienna Kelly is relieved to be rolling into Nemours Children's Hospital with her 1-year-old baby named Koa.
I walk in here every time not worried about his care.
Koa has osteogenesis imperfecta. OI is a rare life-threatening brittle bone condition.
But it can also increase the risk of fractures in the vertebral bodies of the spine.
Dr. Ricky Carroll says OI is usually diagnosed before a baby is born, and parents are often given a devastating choice.
And their options were either to terminate the pregnancy or to focus on comfort when they were born until they died.
Almost every doctor I saw just gave me the same answer, to get rid of him, that he wouldn't live.
Koa defied the odds, and his mom quickly had him transferred to Nemours that specializes in treating the condition.
It was like taking a breath of fresh air.
And now a small new study from Nemours says fatal OI is difficult to accurately diagnose before a baby is born, and that with the right kind of care, it's not always deadly.
Many of these babies did survive, and not just survive, they are thriving. They're doing phenomenally.
Dr. Carroll says with bone strengthening medications and specialized equipment, babies like Koa can improve.
We do everything. Koa goes to museums, we go to the zoo, we go to mommy and me classes.
His fragile condition is challenging, but mom says it's worth everything to her.
That's my heart outside of my body. That's my soul outside of my body. He teaches me every day how to be strong.
Learning life lessons from her little fighter. Stephanie Stahl, CBS News, Philadelphia.
Good oral health helps take care of more than just our teeth. It's also beneficial for our hearts and our brains. Research suggests gum disease may trigger chronic inflammation that could lead to the development of harmful enzymes.
When you have gum disease, when you have dental problems, the bacteria in your mouth are getting into the blood, and then from the blood they can travel anywhere, including the heart, including the brain.
One study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease shows that people who floss regularly had a lower risk of developing cognitive issues like Alzheimer's than those who did not.
Water picks are better than nothing. Mouthwash is not a substitute, because what you're really doing is mechanically removing the bacteria and some of the plaque that is building up between the teeth, and there's really no replacement for something like flossing.
The American Dental Association recommends people use fluoride toothpaste, floss regularly, visit a dentist twice a year, and certainly avoid smoking. Now that spring has officially started, people with seasonal allergies are starting to suffer. Karen Hua has tips on how to get some relief.
In the Houston area, spring is budding, and Wendy Wales is suffering.
Allergies kind of hit like about this time every year, because there's a lot of stuff blooming. I've got like a cold cough right now from it, and it just lingers.
Her daughter Twyla also has seasonal allergies.
My symptoms are kind of like congestion, coughing, like headaches.
A report from Climate Central finds warming trends in 172 cities around the country are giving plants more time to grow and release pollen. And for the 80 million Americans who suffer from seasonal allergies, that means longer allergy seasons.
Year after year, we are seeing higher and higher pollen levels. Allergists say leave the pollen at the door. When you get home, change your outfit, because pollen and other allergens like to stick to your clothes and shoes.
You take your shoes off, you wash your face, you wash your eyes. Keeping your doors and windows closed to keep that pollen out and not let it in can make a huge difference. HEPA filters can catch whatever little pollen comes in those instances.
Anything you do to prepare for allergy season, or?
Take your meds.
Allergist immunologist Dr. Pratyusha Savjani says it's best to start your allergy medications before the season begins. Other treatments are also available.
I'm sure people have heard of allergy shots. You have to get shots regularly in an allergist's office. They teach your immune system how to not be allergic to that substance.
If you're struggling, she recommends seeing an allergist so you can develop a treatment plan and get some much needed relief. Karen Hua, CBS News, Houston.
Coming up, why scientists are genetically manipulating mosquitoes and tips to protect yourself from carbon monoxide poisoning. Welcome back. A recent survey found the average smartphone user scrolls the equivalent of 78 miles a year. That is 3 marathons. Some might say it's good exercise for your thumb, but there is evidence that it could be hurting your brain. Meg Oliver has details.
Katie Page Rosenberg, a freshman at the University of North Carolina, Asheville.
2 successes, 2 failures.
Recently realized what too much scrolling was doing to her.
How many hours were you spending on your phone?
Oh God, probably like 9.
9 hours?
I was just kind of constantly on it.
You may have heard stories like hers before.
I wasn't able to focus because I would have to take out my phone every couple of minutes.
But now you can actually see the science behind it.
Smartphones have wide-reaching changes all over the brain, and specifically it grows here and it shrinks there.
Psychiatrist Brent Nelson is applying this new science at Newport Healthcare, which has mental health treatment centers for teens across the country.
This is a brain that's addicted to a smartphone.
These are MRI images from a recent study in Korea. All the red indicates increases in brain activity, the effects of smartphone addiction.
Do you want your brain to be this colorful?
You don't.
Why?
Well, because this is showing where the brain is working extra hard compared to a non-addicted brain when asked to do actually a pretty simple task.
Addicted smartphone users' brains were so colorful, so active, it made them less attentive and more easily distracted, what's now informally called brain rot.
What does that look like in real life?
Yeah, let's take school, for example. You're sitting in class and you're trying to focus. They're gonna be looking around, not attending to what the teacher is trying to teach them.
Dr. Nelson says emerging research points to even greater risks.
We're just starting to see these changes, and we know they're connected to behavioral changes, depression, anxiety. The dangers are hiding in there.
Social media had really influenced me in a lot of ways. TikTok would kind of push these videos of people popping an edible before school, and I was like, if I do this, maybe I'll be cool, and I started self-medicating.
To deal with that, last year she checked into a treatment facility.
If you hadn't gone to treatment, where would you be today?
I don't think I'd be here. It was really bad.
Katie had to give up her phone in treatment. There, she found other outlets from drawing to playing guitar that helped rewire her Gen Z brain. The key, perhaps, analog antidotes reminiscent of another generation.
Playing in the dirt, drinking from the hose, sort of the Gen X kind of mentality, is shown to actually allow folks to recover, to feel better, to make it easier to kind of go about their day.
In short, it's good to stop scrolling and start strumming.
Meg Oliver, CBS News, Asheville, North Carolina.
Scientists are turning to genetics to stop the spread of malaria, breeding modified mosquitoes to help wipe out one of the world's deadliest diseases. Tina Kraus has the story from London.
Scientists in England say they're shifting strategies in the battle against malaria by manipulating mosquitoes that spread it. They're engineering the insects to slow the growth of parasites in their gut that cause the disease.
What we have done here is to make the mosquitoes not being infected with malaria. So they cannot be infected with malaria, they cannot transmit malaria.
The genetic modification uses genes taken from the honeybee and the African clawed frog to stunt the growth of the malaria parasite inside the mosquito.
And then to engineer them also to spread that modification in wild populations very quickly,
allowing the malaria-resistant insect to pass on its resistance to future generations. Researchers say it would mean a mosquito bite in regions of the world where malaria is a constant no longer carries a potential death sentence. Malaria kills around 600,000 people every year. More than 90% live in Africa, and most are children under 5. The Transmission Zero team says its technique has dramatically reduced the spread of malaria in the lab. And if proven safe and effective in a real-world setting, it could offer a powerful new tool to help wipe out malaria. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
As millions of Americans head off for spring break getaways, there is a risk of an invisible danger: Carbon monoxide poisoning could be a threat at some hotels or vacation rentals. National consumer correspondent Usher Qureshi shares a device that could save your life.
You can't see it, you can't smell it. Toxic carbon monoxide gas is the leading cause of poisoning deaths in the U.S. Whether leaking from a faulty appliance or a fireplace, the fumes can fill every room as you sleep.
This is considered the silent killer.
Data shows firefighters responded to more than 4,000 carbon monoxide incidents at hotels, motels, and resorts between 1999 and 2020. More than 1,000 people have been hurt, at least 24 have died.
We might just have a headache, feel nauseous, have something going on, feeling dizzy, where we just think we might be getting sick, and it's actually carbon monoxide that's causing it.
But even scarier, Special Ops Field Chief Sean Malloy of the Evanston, Illinois Fire Department warns you might not have any symptoms at all.
You're not going to know it's there, and what it's going to do is it's going to displace that oxygen in your blood.
That's why you should make sure your hotel room or rental is equipped with at least one of these life-saving gadgets.
So, Chief Malloy, we're in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath Airbnb. For a unit this size, how many carbon monoxide detectors should you have?
You're going to want one at least on every floor, as well as near bedrooms and in the hallways outside bedrooms.
How do you check to make sure it's working?
Press the button, just hold it for a second. You're going to hear it start beeping. Runs through, it's letting me know that it's working.
So, if the alarm goes off, what should you do?
If I'm in my apartment, Airbnb, wherever I'm staying, the alarm goes off, I know that we're getting about 30 parts per million carbon monoxide. I want to immediately get out of the building.
Both Airbnb and Vrbo post on their website whether or not they have CO alarms installed in the units you're looking at.
Regardless, the safest move is to pack one of your own. You can find them online and at major retail stores. We picked this one up in-store for about $25.
In recent years, there have been deaths of American tourists in Mexico and the Bahamas linked to carbon monoxide leaks. And because plugs abroad can be unpredictable, consider carrying a portable detector like this that's battery operated. That way, if your room or rental doesn't have one, you're still protected. For CBS News, I'm Usher Qureshi.
After the break, the CDC virus detectives looking to stop the next pandemic. And after 3 brain surgeries, doctors used a 3D printer to finish the job. Welcome back. The CDC has virus detectives that are constantly working to try to prevent another mass outbreak like COVID-19. CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder got an inside look at the operation.
Over 5 years ago, COVID touched down on U.S. soil when one man from Washington state flew home after a trip to Wuhan, China. But for days, we didn't know he was carrying the virus because we weren't testing airplanes then. Today, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is trying to catch viral intruders before they spread.
Our job as well is to stop disease from entering the U.S. Early detection is key for response.
CBS News received special access last fall for the first look at their traveler-based genomic surveillance program. In the time it takes to unload checked baggage, technicians collect samples from the plane's wastewater.
In other words, poop testing.
That might sound gross, but it's the fastest way to test many people who could be carrying a new infectious disease. Dr. David Fitter is in charge of global migration health for the CDC.
What are you testing for?
For SARS-CoV-2, the disease that causes COVID, this is where we started the program. We've also expanded this into flu A and flu B, and we're looking at RSV as well, adenovirus, norovirus, and mpox.
They can only test for a virus that they know to look for. So far, they've caught one weeks before a patient showed up at the doctor's office and tested positive.
You may want to step back. You have open-toed shoes.
So what exactly are you pouring here?
We call it blue juice. Courier that comes in, actually, we'll take this back to our lab.
Samples are then shipped straight to this lab in Boston.
This is our genomics laboratory where we take wastewater from airplanes. We extract the genetic material in that from bacteria and viruses, and we look for potential threats to biosecurity.
In 48 hours, they can know about a new strain or virus hitting the U.S. If they pop a positive, researchers can sound the alarm to state and local health officials. It begs the question,
how prepared are we for the next pandemic?
I think we were definitely leaning in more. We learned so much during COVID. We need to be able to detect things earlier, and we need to be able to respond quickly.
Stopping outbreaks one day perhaps, but today this program is only testing wastewater at 4 airports. And last year, 135 million people flew from foreign countries into more than 300 airports across the U.S. Dr. Celine Gounder for CBS News, San Francisco.
And now to the first brown bear in the world to have brain surgery. The animal's making a remarkable recovery at a wildlife park in England. Tina Kraus reports from London.
After a long winter's nap, Baki the bear has bounced back from a life-saving surgery.
His recovery's been amazing, just what we were hoping for.
The 3-year-old was having seizures last year, so vets gave him an MRI scan that showed fluid on his brain. Surgeons prepared for a 6-hour operation to save him.
Yeah, it's different where they go in because of the anatomy.
In October, doctors put a stent between his brain and his abdomen to flush out the fluid and gave him pain medicine to take the edge off while he recovered.
He's come out, he's done all the things he should be doing, eating grass, exploring the place, been really quite lively.
Baki's struggles started long before surgery. He was rejected by his mother as a cub at a wild animal reserve before being adopted by a wildlife park in England, where devoted keepers are now working to get him back up to size. He's lost more than 60 pounds since going under the knife.
He'll slowly put on weight, but it's like a real psychological and physical reset for them. It's a real healing process.
Doctors say Baki's brave battle has paid off. He's now symptom-free and able to bear the journey ahead. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Finally, a 3D printer has helped save the life of a man in New Jersey whose skull was crumbling. As Zinnia Maldonado reports, the Navy veteran hopes others can benefit from his medical battle.
After 3 brain surgeries, 63-year-old Greg Morrison received not so great news.
My skull that they had put back was starting to deteriorate.
As part of his skull was caving in, his neurosurgeon, Dr. Nitish Patel of Jersey Shore University Medical Center, got to work. His team was able to construct a 3D model of Morrison's skull and then a replacement piece for the decaying fragment, thanks to a 3D printer.
We can take a CAT scan, replicates Greg's anatomy in 3D, take that, identify the defect of what's missing, print out a perfect puzzle piece.
Morrison, an engineer and Navy vet, first suffered a brain bleed 2 years ago, which required 2 surgeries and then a third when a brain tumor was discovered.
Very few patients can go through what he went through and come out looking this good.
And Dr. Patel, what was the biggest challenge you faced when performing this type of surgery?
The challenge, of course, is timing. In Greg's case, not only were we able to beat the time factor, but we were also able to modify the anatomy.
After his final surgery in November, the Jersey Shore native has since fully recovered and is back at work. By his side, George, the original replica of his skull.
I truly want people, no matter how challenging the obstacle is, to know there's hope.
Morrison hopes his story serves as inspiration for those battling a fight that seems impossible to win. From Neptune, New Jersey, Zinnia Maldonado, CBS News.
That's Eye on Health for this week. I'm Bradley Blackburn. Thanks for joining us, and be well.